All right, well, I'm still testing out these various recorders, so please let me know in the comment section whether it's audible as well as sounding good. So let us get right to it. So Marilyn is continuing her jihad, to use a Dune term, against Ecoplex, and again, trying to be fair-minded and be consistent. I've done a lot of videos on Scoville, who is charged not exactly with identical crimes, but there are similarities, let's be honest. So what does he have for us? Well, you know when you put a title with the video and it says more documents, presumably those documents are, going to tell us something. Well, what did Marilyn give us? Not very much. So there were more documents. She showed us some of them. I wish she showed all of it. Let us read these things for ourselves. So the basic gist is Ecoplex had crime X, and then he was on parole. And so she's going through the parole record, and it doesn't look good. And Ecoplex's YouTube channel at the moment is gone. If you go to it, you get that monkey symbol. So apparently he is not online, though I've heard he's still on Twitch, but I don't know that for sure. I'm not a big Twitch person. I should get on Twitch. I think I have an account with him. Anyway, okay, so she's reading the documents. What is she giving us? Well, basically that apparently as a condition of the parole, he should have been, again, this is in the past, because the crime was 20 years ago. So in the 2000s, after he was released, he should have been looking for work actively, but his parole officer was getting angry that he was not looking for work actively. And there's this one report where he's being kind of chided and criticized for not looking for work actively. And Ecoplex responds saying, well, I don't have to work. My parents are paying for me, and I want to get into music. So there you go. And also he's frequenting nightclubs, which the parole officer is very critical of, and saying, I think you need to concentrate on getting a job, not going to nightclubs, and presumably drinking and taking various substances. Okay, I mean, these documents do have some value, but really it's not adding up, because I thought Marilyn's whole thing was crimes against children, right? Allegedly, that's her big worry. I've already pointed out a major contradiction with Tommy Scoville, where he was convicted. Right, now, let's be clear. And I got to be careful with YouTube, right? It is what it is. Monetization is a thing, guys, sorry. So he was found with one image, which was corn. We'll just call it corn. A corn image of Russian teenagers. So it was the corn featuring Russian teenagers. I think there are strong hints this was gay corn, but I'm not sure. So anyway, so he was caught with the image, and that's why he was put away. Scoville outright attacked a young girl. Okay, so it's kind of apples and oranges, but all right, fine. So Marilyn is outraged at all these things, but with Scoville, she didn't really do too much. She exposed his fraudulent activities and him taking advantage of a few friends, but not really what he did with these underage victims, but there we are. Okay, so one major contradiction, but Marilyn, these are technically separate topics. If you're saying that Ecoplex exaggerated how reformed he is, okay, that's fine. You're impugning his honesty. But for those not aware, Marilyn is very close to Aaron Smith-Levin. And when you read these reports, there are some pretty hilarious parallels. And these are serious topics, but let's be honest, this is weird. So you're mad at him for going to the clubs, and his parole officer is mad for him to go into the clubs. Okay, that is fine. You can be judgmental of him club hopping and perhaps getting inebriated, taking drinks, and perhaps taking illegal substances. That is totally legit. Marilyn can do that up to a point. The problem, of course, is Aaron did all these things. He did identical things. How do I know this? Because he was caught on tape. He had the audacity, after harassing a couple and getting rowdy in a club, and the boyfriend of the girl he was getting rowdy with basically stepped to him. And by the way, let's be very clear. They tried to calm the situation, but Aaron repeatedly was insulting her with foul language. So after this thing escalated, it got physical. He got beat up. He had the audacity to call the police and try to get the guy in trouble. So they double-checked the witnesses and said, they're telling a different story. They're saying you're not a pure victim. You actually antagonized this couple. And Aaron had to admit he was lying to the police, saying, you're right. I didn't call her crazy. I called her something much worse, but, I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I was here to get signatures because I was running for political office. Now, does anyone now really believe this, that Aaron went to a club to get signatures? Really? Really? But anyway, okay, that's the cover story. Fine. So he got rowdy. The police were called in. They took a report. And then nothing happened because it seemed like, well, the witnesses weren't really cooperative, so the investigation didn't go any further. But the point would be, does Aaron regularly go to clubs? Yes, we have evidence he does. Does he regularly consume alcohol? Yes, we have evidence of that. He even admits, yes, he takes some illegal substances at times. There's even a whole trip to Latin America where apparently he went on a huge binge. And it got so bad at one point, Mike Rinder, right, they were in China. Apparently he took so much alcohol, he blacked out for days. Okay, so what is Marilyn's point? That Ecoplex did not really reform himself? Maybe, maybe not. But if you're using these documents to indicate his, quote, bad behavior, Aaron did the same thing and much worse. But Marilyn is saying, Aaron is imperfect. I have yelled at him at the phone. I have dealt with the Aaron issue. Marilyn, if that's what you think is sufficient, then all you're really saying is you should be allowed to have a phone conversation with Ecoplex, yell at him, and then everything's fine. So what are we doing here? Either you're giving us something genuinely new or you're wasting our time. Let me give an example. With Scoville, let me give a huge shout out to Knife Hoarder and Goot. And let me just take one moment because Knife Hoarder at this moment probably is having surgery. So hopefully he pulls through and he's okay. So prayers to Knife Hoarder. Okay. So Knife Hoarder and Goot, and I'll really give Goot a lot of credit because Goot caught Scoville, the Scoville brothers, were bragging. They were bragging to themselves that, you remember that old time? Because this is what Scoville does. He remembers his old crimes. He says, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, the cops almost caught us. Doing what? Well, he says, well, if those cops had really been doing their job, we would have been arrested and we would have gone away for 40 years. Now, were they bragging? Were they telling the truth? We don't know. But if they were telling the truth, they did something so bad. If they were caught, they would have been put away for 40 years. 40 years. So they committed crimes that are way worse than Ecoplex because, Marilyn, maybe studied the law. Even Danny Masterson was not technically, jailed for 40 years. So they did something far worse than Danny Masterson, far worse than Ecoplex. Marilyn's reaction? Nothing. But the point would be Goot and Knife Hoarder, as well as others, TCM and other people, yes, provided additional documents relevant to the issue, right? We have evidence of fraud. We have evidence of the PD. And we have evidence of other crimes, including the 40-year confession. That's bringing in more documents relevant to the case that give us a bigger understanding. This is not technically related to what you're talking about. You're saying, okay, I get what you're saying. He didn't do a good job on parole. But what's the evidence that he didn't reform? What you're pointing out, he was lazy, he's into drinking, he's into music, and he's not doing what he should be doing with the parole officers. He's being disrespectful to the law. Aaron is guilty of all those crimes. Aaron committed all those behaviors. You don't care. So it's fine. You can do your witch hunt. But if you're going to tell us, oh, we have some new documents, maybe relate them to things that are relevant to the crimes. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, we get what you're saying, but they don't prove what you think they prove. They may prove he's a bad person, but they don't prove what you're saying or accusing him of. He didn't really reform. He's still going to the club. He's still drinking. He's probably putting illegal substances in his body. You mean like Aaron? You mean like Aaron? So basically you're accusing him of acting like Aaron. But you like Aaron. You forgive Aaron. You yelled at Aaron and everything's forgiven. I yelled at Aaron. I confronted Aaron on the phone. I confronted Aaron. And then the Church of Uranus was cleansed of the sins. Okay. Hallelujah to you, Marilyn, but really, you're wasting our time. Please, if you're going to do this dumb Batman detective work, go somewhere, please, because you're not going anywhere, as far as I know.